a vehicle celebrating those who rise above expectations and reason.
Whether you get the strong American Pentastar V6 or the top-notch 5.7 V8, you're buying American.
Inspiring greatness to all that exudes individuality of excellence. A master of craftsmanship where everything we do reflects our persistence and commitment towards remarkable journeys.
If it can be built, it should be built. The muscle mindset. All jokes aside, today we're going to find out, is the Dodge Durango RT really the SRT that you want? Or are the marketing terms just games? Let's find out. All right, y'all, so we're going to talk about the back of the car. Probably my favorite part of this car's design probably is this tail light right here. It's pretty cool how it goes all the way around and it's pretty identifiable at night. It's a definitely Dodge statement piece. I see a lot of car manufacturers try to copy lately, you know. I see Porsche now has the bar that goes across too on the new stuff, but Dodge did it first. So even in 2019 cars, you still have that modern touch. It also has dual tailpipe, which is gonna give you, the best sound, obviously with that V8 motor. These do have mufflers, so if you do cut these off, it's gonna be a little too loud. Honestly, I would say, don't do that, especially on these RTs. If you're buying this for family, how it sounds right now is pretty impressive, especially being a V8, it's very gutsy. We're gonna have a little sound check. This car does have the electronic tailgate, so you can obviously open it from the remote, or you can just, hold the handle and it'll open. And we will now talk about the trunk while we wait for it to open. This does have 3 rows, and as you can tell, if my system will come a little closer, we'll get you guys a better view real quick of the back end over here. It's really, really, really small, but it's decent enough size to, especially thinking that we have a 3rd row open right now. It's pretty impressive. And you do have 12 volts in the back over here, a little cubby and a little space under here for storage, but that's pretty much it. When you do fold the seats, of course you get more space, but that's not what's important. What's important is the fact that you have a whole 3rd row at this price, V8 motor, all-wheel drive. And what are the compromises? We'll get into that. Right now, let's just take what we can. Let's enjoy the Dodge V8 appeal. This is where the beauty, the sex appeal of this car comes into play. It's off on the rear end, so appreciate that because we're about to go into the interior where it gets real as usual. We're gonna digest that. Okay, the inside. So first off, I will start by saying this is American. So the standard for American is a little bit different already when it comes to interior. So we do kind of, let American cars get away with a little bit more. But one thing I will say off the bat with this interior is there's a lot of leather everywhere. One thing about this leather is it's probably gonna be easy to clean, especially if you have kids. Those gremlins make a mess. And this is all around the interior it looks like an easy to clean leather. It's perforated, so probably comfortable for road trips too. We sat in the seats for a while. They do feel comfortable. American cars do have really nice coach seats. They'll always have those in these big luxury cars, and these are really comfortable, especially if you're a larger size person. This bolster on here gives enough space for you to kind of, spread yourself in comfortably and get snug. So that's fantastic. That's where the fantastic ends. I will say that. That's probably pretty much it. The material choice, oh my gosh, it's like a fake leatherette type material. So there's a plasticky one, and they have like the smooshy one. So most of the surfaces are gonna be soft surfaces, but it's not real leather. So you get this crusty plastic, and then you have this soft rubbery plastic. That's all it is in the interior. Just a bit of leather on your seats, a little bit of leather, maybe a little bit of accent here and there, and that's it. But the interior design language is no, it's lacking. Especially thinking about this car is gonna be a little bit, in the sub 30,000 range. They do get a little bit fancy when you get to the SRT model, so that's where they cut the cost for sure. But hey, you do get that front end, so from the outside, nobody will know that you have the crusty interior, so it's all good anyway. We're gonna talk about the technology in this car and the infotainment system real quick before we take it on a test drive. The infotainment system on this is very small. It looks dated. However, what we want to focus on is the quality of life. If you buy a used car, what are you gonna kind of get? One of the things we noticed was the infotainment kind of runs hot most of the time. So what's happened is the display is starting to peel off from the touch screen, and you can kind of tell that, and it just shows you that it's not lasting real well. So some of these trims inside here are not meant to last for the longest, but I think it's a compromise that if you are looking to just have the V8 motor and you don't mind having an interior that just doesn't have the best sex appeal, it's totally fine. It's totally fine because this car does come with a tremendous amount of tech. You have your blind spot monitoring on all your mirrors, which are pretty big, especially with the visibility. You feel really confident driving. Matter of fact, it also comes with a lot of driving features that we're gonna go into, but even when parking, you have a backup camera, but it's not the best quality. It's like almost like 480p. Like Nancy said, it's playing a video game. It's literally like playing a video game. But hey, it's all good as long as you can see behind you, right? That's for some people, that's all they need. As long as they can see behind them, that's more than enough. But it does have that. You do have easy access to a lot of the buttons and controls while you're driving, and it's plenty on your steering wheel. Speaking of the wheel, the leather quality is not that great. It hasn't aged great at all. However, the design of the wheel really sporty. It goes well with the RT theme that's everywhere in this car, but I do like the wheel. So I'm super excited to take this car on the drive so we can talk a little bit about some of the tech features that will really come in handy while driving. All right, we're taking out the big Durango on the drive. Honestly, this car for its size is, I'm surprised. I'm really surprised. No blind spots really. You feel like you have very confident visibility for a car this big. I almost forgot I was in a car this big. Mostly I'd say the steering wheel helps with that. It does have a really good feeling steering wheel. It's not heavy, but it's not light. It's very direct feeling. It feels like when you feel a little connection to the wheel. They did a good connect with the dynamics on that. The transmission, not so much. You have a lot of gears. This is an 8-speed transmission, so you have a lot of gears, especially when you're doing long cruises. You don't feel like you're tiring out the motor. However, in just drive, it's not as aggressive. But because you have a V8, it does kind of overcome that, and once it does kind of kick into the right gear, you feel like you're just, going off. But bear in mind, this is only 300 and something horsepower, so it is just enough to give you that oomph, but not enough to kill you, And being all-wheel drive, I wouldn't be too worried about losing traction a lot. It also gives you a lot of confidence when trying to tow something. The technology in this car too, what you get is you have blind spot monitoring on all your mirrors, which is fantastic. You also do get adaptive cruise control in this car, and a lane keep assist also. All these features are fantastic. When it comes to driving modes, this car doesn't have a lot, but what you do get is good enough. You have a manual mode, you can slap in manual, you have little paddle shifters right here, and you do have a sport button on here, so you do have that option to kind of, you give it a more of a sport driving dynamic, but it's not gonna be as impressive as some of the other models. The higher trim levels have more of those driving modes in the displays and stuff. This doesn't have any of that because obviously it's the RT. It's just a regular V8 motor in here. However, that being said, these feature the adaptive cruise control and the lane keep assist work pretty decently. So it's something I recommend using on a road trip, especially. I wouldn't say using it in the city helps at all. The system gets nervous, but on a road trip, definitely worth it, especially if you got the family in the car and everybody's relaxed and winding down. You know, you want to focus on driving. It will definitely help you just get comfortable for sure. I will say that it would be nice if we did have a full digital display, but having this 5.5-inch-ish display is better than having a tiny thing or none at all. It displays all the information you need, especially when you're using all these other tech features. It does not change anything fancy, no maps showing up on here, nothing like that. It's just regular old just gauge, speedometer, and it will show you a little bit of the features when it comes to your adaptive cruise control, but that's pretty much it. The car's driving dynamics, believe it or not, decently comfortable, very comfortable seats. We spoke about the seats, but in terms of the driving dynamics of the car, it also really drives pretty decent. I do like that when you turn, the car responds very well. It doesn't have a lot of that very weird yaw, even if you have people in the back seats, they won't have that really roller coaster feel. That's especially prevalent in a lot of minivans, so that is a good thing. Especially, I like that because it's something I've experienced, you know, in like bigger SUVs too, like the Land Cruiser. So this has that, so loving that for sure. One thing I will say I'm not impressed with for sure in this car is gonna have to be trying to interact with the display while driving. It's really difficult, especially because all the icons are, you have to read them. They're not really easy to see from your peripheral view and interact with, but it's forgivable because you do have physical buttons for most of your controls, so you can kind of get away with that. But backseat passengers and front seat passengers have access to a lot of the cool stuff like climate control in the backseat too, so they won't have to holler at you to change the temperature. And overall, it seems like this car is really geared to being good for road trips, especially if you have a family. I would recommend this car specifically for a young group. If you got a young group of friends and you know you travel a lot, this would be the best car to do that in, honestly. You get to look cool, and you also get, you know, enough space to have a bunch of people in the car. But in terms of the quality inside the interior, that's the one thing I would say is just lacking. Apart from that, for a young audience, this car really is an option. It's a really good option, and I'd put it on the list, especially for somebody who might even have a family and you just want to look impressive, want to look cool. Why not? You know, you don't have to spend as much as the SRT because you don't need to be having all that power. But in terms of the practicality, in terms of features, it does tick a lot of boxes. It seems like that was Dodge's focus, which is how many boxes can we tick, you know, because they don't have anything else. They don't have a great design. They don't have, anything else going for it apart from that. It doesn't have the big motor that the other ones have. You can't take it out there and compete at the drag strip with this one. Don't think about doing that, but you still get the V8 sound, so be it. You know, that's a good compromise. So for brand appeal, I definitely feel like Dodge likes to hype up the car. They say that they attract a lot of millennials and young buyers, but from my experience personally, Dodge is just another used car brand, so I don't really want to give it any points for that. However, a lot of people in the government give the brand a good reputation since it's used for a lot of fleet cars, so that gives it a little bit of points on that. So we ended up giving it a 4.5 on brand appeal. For the car's drivability, guys, it was pretty impressive. I ended up giving it a decent score because the engine gives a lot of power. However, the transmission does let it down. Even though it's 8-speed, it seems to be very slow to respond. Dodge claims this 52 to 48% weight distribution. I don't know what that means, but from my experience driving the car, the steering wheel felt really responsive and the weight balance was really good. And you know, it helped they didn't have blind spots. So I ended up giving this car a 7 out of 10 for the drivability. Overall, you don't have a lot of options of styling with 3-row SUVs, but with this 3-row SUV, the RT does kind of look better than some of the other comparable three-row SUVs. However, this tries to look more performance-oriented with the dual tailpipe, so it does help it a lot. We ended up giving it a 6 out of 10 for styling. That score is very subjective to your personal taste, because some people might like other things like luxury cars instead.
So our review on the tech and safety of the Durango, with multiple features involved in the car, such as the lane keep assist, the adaptive cruise, as well as the blind spot monitoring, it's a great car with tech overall. But with that being said, with multiple features involved in the car, the non-user friendly interface is not good. With so many options involved, when you're driving, you're trying to press this button, that button, it's a distraction. It's a huge distraction. Therefore, our score for that is 4.5 out of 10.
For value with this car, it was a little bit more difficult because the pricing is hit or miss. There usually are high mileage cars that are available with this. So I would try to stay under $45,000. Anything more than that for anything from a 2020 and older, I'd say that would be too much, because there's other cars like you could get a Discovery, or you could get even an Escalade or a GMC Denali at a little bit more, maybe $5,000 more. So for this, we end up giving it a 4 out of 10 for the value.